Kelsey Turner and Dr. Burchard knew each other for about 2 years, and during that time, he was helping pay for many of her bills. Now, things in their relationship took a turn, though, when police say he traveled here to Las Vegas in March of 2019 to tell the former Playmate that he would no longer be paying for her lifestyle. While he was here, he and Turner got into an argument that escalated pretty quickly. Turner and her then boyfriend are accused of beating the psychiatrist to death with a baseball bat and then stuffing his body into the trunk of her Mercedes.
Kelsey Nicole Turner was born in Norfolk, Virginia on May 5, 1993. She moved to Arkansas when she was young and eventually attended Arkansas State University. She had a passion for music and claimed to be a very talented R&B and blues singer. At 18 years old, while working as a waitress, a photographer discovered her and encouraged her to pursue modeling. So she moved to LA and began booking work. She appeared in several magazines, including Maxim, Glamour, Cosmopolitan, and Playboy. Around 2017, Kelsey met Dr. Thomas Kirk Burchard online. Thomas was a very well-respected and successful child psychiatrist. He graduated from the University of Virginia School of Medicine in 1973. He worked with the Montage Health, behavioral health program at the Community Hospital of the Monterey Peninsula for about 40 years. Although he focused on children, he treated many of his patients well into adulthood. He worked with some of the most difficult to treat patients suffering from depressive, eating, bipolar, or anxiety disorders, who had trouble finding care elsewhere. At the time, he was divorced. His ex-wife filed for divorce after finding out he'd sent thousands of dollars to other women. According to the divorce filings, Thomas admitted that he had paid other women's rent and sent them money. When he met Kelsey, Thomas was engaged to his longtime girlfriend Judy Earp. According to Judy, Thomas had an affinity for helping everyone, especially beautiful women. She often voiced her concerns to him that Kelsey, and the other cash-strapped young women, may have been taking advantage of him. But she said he told her, "That's okay, I can afford it." In December of 2017, Thomas signed a lease for the then 25-year-old Kelsey, who claimed she could not get approved for a place to stay. The doctor ended up paying $3,200 a month in rent and sending her as much as $4,000 a week. But, after he abruptly stopped paying the rent in the fall of 2018, the landlord evicted Kelsey, her 2 children, and her mother 3 months later. Thomas reportedly felt terrible that Kelsey and her family were on the streets. So, in December he rented another $3,000 a month home at 7474 Puritan Avenue in Las Vegas for Kelsey. He paid the rent in full through June 2019. But, according to his close friends, Thomas was in the process of cutting Kelsey completely off after that. It was reported that Thomas had spent at least $300,000 on Kelsey.
About $300,000 that I know about, and possibly more.
Kelsey invited several people to stay with her, including her friend and Caesar's Palace bartender Diana Pena, and her boyfriend John Logan Kennison, who was on parole for felony cocaine distribution. According to neighbors and court documents, the relationship between John and Kelsey was very violent. On March 1st, Thomas flew to Las Vegas to meet up with Kelsey. Just before he left, he allegedly told friends that Kelsey was being abused by her boyfriend, and now she and her kids were going to have nowhere to go.
He says, seems that Kelsey's having some trouble with her boyfriend out there in Vegas. He's hitting her, he's abusing her, and she has no money, nowhere to go, and I feel partly responsible for this.
He was scheduled to return home on March 4th, but he never made it back. According to Judy, the last time she heard from her husband was on March 2nd. The following day, she started receiving text messages from his phone that she could tell weren't from him. She called the police immediately. She explained to them, regarding the text messages, it was uneducated vocabulary and he was a highly educated man. And they were fishing for my bank account information. Which was strange, because he already knew that. She demanded that a welfare check be done. On March 3, 2019, Las Vegas police went to the residence that Thomas was paying for, but no one answered the door. They came back the next day and still got no answer. So again, they went back a third time on March 5 and found the house seemingly abandoned. On March 7, at about 9:30 a.m., Las Vegas police responded to a call of a suspicious vehicle in a remote area about 2 miles off State Route 147. Police searched the blue 2017 Mercedes C300 whose windows were busted out. When they opened the trunk, they found the decaying body of Dr. Thomas Burchard. He was covered with laundry that would later be linked to another crime scene. An autopsy determined that Thomas died from blunt force trauma to the head and had sustained several defensive injuries. Armed with a search warrant, police then returned to the home. The doors and windows were unlocked, and the blinds were up, so officers made entry. They found blood in the house and garage. One of the bedroom doors had been ripped off its hinges and broken into 2 pieces. It was also stained with blood. They also found the matching towel set that covered Thomas's body. Las Vegas homicide detectives quickly determined Kelsey was their main suspect. After receiving a tip that she was hiding out in California, they reached out to the FBI's Stockton Task Force on March 21. The same day, they found and arrested Kelsey at a home east of downtown Stockton, where she was staying with John and her young son. John, who was not arrested, agreed to come to the Las Vegas Police Department for questioning, but he never showed up. Kelsey was interviewed and denied having any involvement in the murder, but she was unconvincing. The district attorney charged her with murder of a victim 60 or older with a deadly weapon, and conspiracy to commit murder. She pleaded she was 26 at the time. Her extradition to Las Vegas was delayed because she was found to be pregnant with John's child. She eventually gave birth to a baby girl while in custody. On April 5, 2019, a warrant was issued for Diana Pena and John Kennison. Diana surrendered to the police on April 13 and was determined to be a witness. She told investigators, and later a grand jury, that a woman named Chelsea, who was dating one of Kelsey's roommates named Jeremy, showed up at the house drunk. She got into an argument with Kelsey and Thomas intervened. He separated the two and tried to take Chelsea out for a short drive in Kelsey's car to cool off. Furious, Kelsey burst into Jeremy's room and demanded that he go get his girlfriend to bring Thomas back. After he got outside and realized that the two had already gone, he tried to get back in the house. But John stepped in the way, shoved him, and then punched him in the face. So, Jeremy left the house. Around 2 a.m. on March 3, 2019, Thomas and Kelsey picked up Diana from work. On the ride back, Thomas got lost, so Kelsey used his phone for directions. When she unlocked his phone, she found text messages and nude images sent between him and her mother. She started yelling and hitting Thomas as he drove.
Kelsey became furious after she found pornographic images of her mother on Burchard's phone. Now, again, for context, Burchard had a relationship with both Turner and her mother while they lived in Salinas.
When they arrived home, Kelsey sent her kids away with one of her friends while she continued to argue with Thomas. Thomas then locked himself in her kids' bedroom, refusing to argue anymore. That's when Kelsey called John, who came and kicked the door down. Diana claimed that John started hitting Thomas with a bat and then wrestled the 71-year-old man to the ground. Although he was severely injured, Thomas stood up and asked them to take him to the hospital. He said he would just tell the doctors and police that he was randomly mugged. And everyone agreed. Diana, Kelsey, John, and Thomas all headed for the car. Thomas and Diana went first. During a brief moment in the garage when they were alone, he whispered that he thought Kelsey was going to kill him. Diana responded that she didn't believe that. When Kelsey and John got in the garage, they told Diana that the house needed to be cleaned up instead. So, she headed inside and began stripping the blood-soaked bed sheets and cleaning blood spatter off the walls. Suddenly, Diana said she heard yelling coming from the garage. She claimed she heard Kelsey yelling at John to knock Thomas out, repeatedly calling him a bitch if he didn't. When she got back down there, she saw John standing there, covered in blood, and holding a gun. The coroner confirmed that Thomas was bludgeoned to death by a small cylindrical object, matching the description of the butt of a gun. After seeing the horrific scene, Diana said she started crying, but Kelsey and John instructed her to get back to cleaning. Kelsey came up with the cover story that Thomas left for California with a couple of random guys that no one knew. But after the police arrived later that day for Thomas's welfare check, everyone panicked. They packed up and fled to the Mandalay Bay Hotel, where they tried to come up with a better plan. That afternoon, Diana said John drove off in Kelsey's Mercedes, and she never saw the car again. On March 4th, they moved to the Rio Hotel. Jermaine, Kelsey's roommate, returned to the home on March 4th, but he couldn't get in. He was met by the officers who were trying to do a welfare check, but he explained to them that he had no idea what happened after he left, and he didn't have a key to get in. On March 7th, Diana said she was standing in line at the Rio Hotel in her pajamas when Kelsey grabbed her and forced her into a cab. Kelsey informed her that the police found Thomas's body and it was all over the news and they had to go now. They then bounced around between friends and motels until eventually heading to California. John, who was 27 at the time, was subsequently arrested on April 17th in Las Vegas. He was charged with murder and conspiracy to commit murder and pleaded not guilty. Facing a mountain of evidence, on June 15, 2022, John Kennison, 30 years old, changed his plea to guilty of second-degree murder with a deadly weapon and conspiracy to commit murder. The district judge accepted his plea agreement and sentenced him to 18 to 45 years in prison.
So why did you plead guilty, John?
Well, this is just taking too long to get done, and trial and everything is just keeps on getting pushed back. So I pretty much just wanted to, I don't want to sit here no more. I don't want to sit here locked up like this. I'd rather just get this over with. People, I'm just tired of being locked up like 23 hours a day and 1 hour out. Like this, I've been like this the entire time I've been locked up. I've never been locked up like this.
On November 9, 2022, Kelsey and her legal team also decided they could not deny the facts of the case and agreed to take an Alford plea to second-degree murder. That means, instead of pleading guilty, Kelsey is acknowledging there is enough evidence for a conviction, but she still maintains her innocence. In exchange, she will only be facing anywhere between 10 to 25 years in prison. Her sentencing hearing has been scheduled for January 10, 2023. Diana Pena was released on bail in July of 2019 and awaits a sentencing date. She could still face jail time. Rest in peace to Dr. Thomas Kirk Burchard.